Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Hello, Epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Oscar Vasquez. Oscar, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast and helping me with my crusade of bringing awareness to living trust and estate planning. I've been a real estate licensed broker for about 28 years, and I've been helping families buy and sell homes. And about 10 years ago, I started knowing as my clientele got older, they would pass and they would go into probate. So I started referring them to attorneys, and now we created a software that's now affordable and that is available to people nationwide.
Cool. Well, that is good, and it is really important subject. It's part of the reason I wanted to have you on. One of the things I talk about in my book is what I call epic unexpected, and those are the things that happen, obviously those unexpected things, and sadly people passing, it can happen quite unexpectedly. And if you haven't taken care of setting up your estate for your surviving family, it can be a very long and tedious process. So, Oscar, thank you so much for trying to make what is decidedly a complex thing perhaps a little easier. Can you start off? Let's talk about some of the different aspects of setting up your estate. So first of all, what is a living trust?
Okay, great. Before I go in, I wanted to add more about the epic and unexpected, because here's the thing that 68% of homeowners in America don't have an estate plan, or they don't have a living trust.
Right.
And I came on this crusade because the only reason I can think they don't have it is because they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know what probate will have. And I think that when you have the unexpected, it's because you don't know. You don't expect it, right? Because it's unexpected. So now, by bringing the education and bringing this crusade, or the crusade that I'm on is to bring that education to people. So now they know, now they can't unknow.
Yep.
Right? So let me go back. That's a great question. What is a living trust? And that is, I've gotten it down to where it's when the attorney kept giving me an explanation, it was like a 10-minute explanation. I know, make it simpler so I could understand it.
Yeah.
And so when he said, Oscar, and this is what dinged it on my head to be able to build out the software, he says, a living trust is a contract between you and the parents or the trustee and the kids, the beneficiaries, and and it's called the contract because the courts enforce it if it's not followed.
Yeah.
And and it's basically, the contract is your instructions on what you want to have happen to you and your things when you're not here.
Yeah.
That's about as simple as it can get. I mean, it's a very, very powerful tool, and it prevents a lot of things from happening.
Absolutely. And from my own knowledge, I've done my estate planning, it is so important because as a parent, I've got 2 daughters. I want to make sure that I've taken care of them properly. I want to ensure that what my wishes are written down, and not, someone goes, well, I really believe that Dad wanted this. If I didn't write it down, no one knows. So here, Here's a question, Oscar. There are different types of trust. There's a living trust. There are, legacy trusts, which
Right.
go on.
Right. The revocable trust can convert into a legacy trust.
Okay.
And so I'm going to tell you what we can the legacy, the revocable living trust is the one that we should, if you're a homeowner, you should start with,
Okay.
because revocable means that while you're alive, you can make all the changes you want.
Yep.
You can disinherit, inherit, you could add, delete, remove, and just do different things. And I had a question the other day at the workshop, and it was a great question, is what is the limitation to the trust as far as instructions? And I thought about that, and the answer that I came up with, the limitations to the instructions you can leave your kids are limited to your beliefs and your mind. Because I'll give you some of like the aha moments that I had. I had a she was an educator, because we work with a lot of educators. We work with a lot of and we did their living trust. And one of the things that she put on there, one of the provisions was that the proceeds from the rental property that she wanted to sell them. She wanted to keep the proceeds in the trust, and the money was supposed to go in disbursements to her son. She only had one son.
Sure.
But he had a disease with alcoholism and drugs.
Yeah.
And so she said one of the provisions that she put on there is that he had to submit a drug test every month by the 28th, and the disbursements were going to be done on the 5th.
Yeah.
And if he tested negative,
he got the disbursement.
No disbursement that month.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, really? She says, and it was her. She said, well, he's going to remain sober when I'm here and when I am dead, or he's not going to abuse or get sick or whatever that happened, whatever his reason is, that's not going to happen. That was the first provision that go like, wow, what a thought. And the second one that was a huge aha moment for me was when we did a special needs trust for a child, and one of their traditions in their family, since she was 12, now she's 20 some, is every year they go to an amusement park, and they have this calendar on the refrigerator with all the days, like how many days left. And every day she'd go tear one out. Yeah. And she goes out and do that. So she goes, I want to make sure that if I go before her, which I wish that happens, right? Yeah. Nobody wants to bury their child. That she put in $10,000 now, so it accumulates interest until then into the trust. But the instructions were that there would be enough money to pay for all expenses for 4 tickets to any amusement park she would want to go to. Yeah. Because what they did is they had a list, and they would go, and I go, wow. Because she wrote out these are the instructions I want on my trust. Yeah. And I was like, that's amazing. I said, what a thoughtful process. She goes, oh, Oscar, it's almost, she looks forward to that day more than Christmas. Yeah. So it's the limitations is there, and the provisions are there. So I'm going to give you a couple of misconceptions that most people have. Okay. Okay. The biggest misconception that a will is enough, and then a living trust. And I'm going to give you the difference, and then I'm going to give you all the benefits of what the trust does, and then all the things that the will does. So a will, the difference between a will and a trust are simple. A will is 2 pages. If an attorney writes it, if you get it online, it's 1 page. And the will says, I love you, I give you everything. Yep. The trust starts off at about in California, is the longest legal provisions that have to be on there to be a legal trust. Yes. It's 142 pages, and I think the lowest is Arkansas, and that has 105 pages. Yeah. That all the provisions that need to be in there. Then that's the difference as far as the legal provisions. 2, a will not prevent you from going to probate. All it's going to do, you still have to go to litigation. The court still decides, In probate, what happens to your things? The court makes the final decision. So the will is the instructions to the judge telling them this is what I wish to have happen. A living trust prevents you from going to court because it has all the legal provisions and it's an enforceable contract that your kids have to follow.
Right.
And so there is no probate. And in California, speaking of the awful word of probate, in California, I know because I've done so much worked with clients on it. So probate, here's the four things that happen in probate. One, the court decides on what happens, has the final decision on what happens to your things. So somebody can mistakenly get disinherited, or somebody can not get their equal portion
Right.
of what you want to have happen. Two, in the state of California, probate starts at $26,000, right?
Yep.
$26,000 is what it costs. I'm like, holy mackerel. Then the third thing is that it gives you a new tax basis. So for example, when you die, the tax base, if you bought the home for $100,000 and when you die it's worth $1 million, because everything in California is worth more than $1 million.
Yeah.
Mobile homes are now 890. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm in California, so yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Are you in California? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, well, up there everything's 5 million, right?
Well, yeah,
it's up there. But anyway, so it's so super expensive. So now when you pass, the kids now have a tax basis of $1 million. They no longer have that tax basis of $100,000, and that's across all properties. That includes investments, your investment property or anything else. So that's a tax basis. And the fourth and final thing that I think should be number one, but the fourth thing is that your kids and your loved ones have specific instructions of exactly what you wanted to have happen.
Yep.
There's no debate between siblings about, no, mom wanted to be buried in the north or the south. There's no doubt this is what she wanted. So
definitely. And it is, estate planning is really important. And I've had a little experience with that. My older sister was murdered when she was 30 and didn't have any estate planning. As very few 30-year-olds think about that. And although she didn't have a large estate, there was still stuff that my dad had challenges doing. The number of death certificates that he had to obtain to be able to send in to say, my daughter Pat, to close bank accounts, to she had some student loans that were being forgiven, but you have to, and understandably, you got to prove that this person has deceased. But it was a lot of work for him to be able to do that.
It creates, it's a seamless, the transfer of it. And when you say a 30-year-old, it's funny because when I get 30-year-olds that come with their parents to a live workshop, they're like, Mom, you should get one. Cause you're getting ready to die. You're going to die. Yeah. I'm like, bro, anybody could die at any time.
I can tell you, I know that, so
yeah.
it
terrible situation. Right?
And what I want to say to my audience is, as Oscar said, in California, it's, the threshold for when you have to go to probate, you may be like, I don't have anything. Honestly, if you own a car, you're going to probate.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you don't have, well, here's the provision. Every state, and I always tell people this, you want to get it, you want to really know when you're in trouble, is Google what is the maximum amount of net worth, and that means assets I am allowed before I have to go to probate. In Colorado, it's $60,000. So if you own 2 cars, you're going to probate.
Yeah.
In California, it's now 184. So I always tell people, when they say, like, who should have one? If you own a house, you have to have one. Yeah. If you own a business, or if you have any kind of digital asset, or if you have any kind of royalty or a book or something, a business, an online business that keeps generating income without you, you have to have one. A business, anything that has the asset, you go to probate, and here's the awful thing of probate. The most horrible story that I have on a probate is probably where I had a client that we never knew, or I didn't know, because I knew him for like 15 years. He passed away. He had several properties, and he wanted them sold when he died, so the kids didn't have any havoc. But when they went to, he didn't do a living trust. He just didn't get to it. He said, I think a will's going to have her. They did a publication, and he had 3 kids in Texas, and he wanted to leave all 100% of his estate to his 4 kids, not the 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
3 kids showed up, and the courts separated it and gave them equal shares by 7. So it took the whole estate, $3 million, and divided it by 7 instead of by 4. So his kids got shorthanded.
Yeah.
Almost, like they got disinherited by a little bit, but enough. But it's enough that it stings when it's that a substantial amount, and that could be $10 or $50. It's when you don't got it, it's enough, right?
Absolutely.
It's a lot.
Absolutely. And you know, I know this seems perhaps a sad thing to be thinking about our own demise, but it is really important. And I can tell you that my dad, when he passed, I mean, he had his estate done like it was airtight. My mom and dad are residents of Florida. Even then, it still took about a year because in Florida, even though my mom was named the executor, everything was really taken care of. They still had to go to the court to have my mom officially named the executor for her to be able to do all the things for my dad to basically close out his estate.
Yeah.
And in Florida, it takes a long time because, well, there are a lot of older people. So the probate court, and again, it was a very minor thing. It was honestly go before the judge. Judge goes, yep. But it still took a year to get the date to be able to go in and have the judge look at all the paperwork, go, yep, everything is in order.
In California, it's 12 to 18 months to do probate. And then you have to wait another 12 to be able to settle the estate. Could be another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
To settle it. So that means imagine having you passing away, your kids were taking care of you. They had no income, and they were living off of your assets because they were taking care of you, or if that was the case. But now they're not going to get any. They're not going to get any financial support or have any access to your things for 12 to 18 months, for 2 years. How do you survive with that? I mean, that's crazy.
Absolutely. Now, what are, aside from the living trust, what are other things that people need to have considerations for their estate?
Okay, so the living trust, an estate plan, it's an umbrella that has several emergency legal documents.
Yep.
One is the pillar is the living trust. The second document is your financial power of attorney in case you become incapacitated.
Yeah.
And that means that they can pay your bills. And I'll give you an example how that was used. We had a client that her husband got in a truck, was a truck driver, got in a car accident, and with the power of attorney, she was able to withdraw from the 401k because he was incapacitated.
Yeah.
And now most people say, well, I already have her as a beneficiary. Well, she only has access to it when you're dead. She will not have access to the money to be able to spend it. So they withdrew enough money so she could stay with him in the hospital for 6 months until he came home. And that was, she said, that alone was worth it. And he always jokes, and says, no, Oscar, I probably would have been out of there in 90 days if it weren't for her. So you have the power of attorney. That's how you could use it. The second thing is the healthcare directive to be able
Yep.
to make medical decisions for you if you're incapacitated. Now, that's the second document that comes with a comprehensive living trust. That's what we have, is we offer a comprehensive living trust always here. And then the third document is we have what's called guardianship plan for your children that are under the age of 18.
Yep.
And they're like, why would I need that? And I said, well, let me tell you, there's three sections to a guardianship plan. One is temporary, and the temporary guardianship plan that helps you in that document is mom and dad go to dinner and they get into an accident.
Mm-hmm.
They become incapacitated. If you do not have a guardianship plan with rights on there for your kids go to social services, which I call child jail, right?
Yeah,
That's
foster care.
They go into that
Yeah.
until somebody claims them, and then they say, "Are you their family? Are you this? Who are you?"
Yeah.
Until they verify everything, and that could take 2-3 days. So that's how a temporary. So one, we ask for you designate a temporary guardian. Two, you have what's called a permanent guardian. That means when you pass,
Right.
what happens to your children, and where are they
Who's
going?
taking care of them? Right.
Yeah, right. Who's taking care of them? And then the third is, I call it the drunk uncle clause, which is, who do you not want your kids with?
Absolutely.
Right. And then so now you have those, and then you also have those are probably the most important documents. Now there's up to 12 different documents, but those are the most that should be and go into. Now everything goes in subject to and customized to everyone's needs, but those are probably the four pillars of an estate plan.
Absolutely. And I do want to say that having a health proxy and an advance directive are really, really important, because you may have very strong feelings about should you be incapacitated, what you do or don't want
to have happen,
done, right? Some people feel strongly that do whatever you have to do. I want you to save me. And other people say, if it's determined that basically all I'm going to do is be alive, and I put that in quotes for those on the podcast, but you're on a ventilator,
artificial life,
being kept alive artificially, and you're like, I that's not what I want. You can put it down. It has to be followed, no matter whether your children are like, no, you've got to save mom or dad. No, they've made it clear. You, as a compass person, have said, I want this and I don't want this. You also want someone, and again, this is important, that health proxy is someone that you trust, and you should, when you name them, say, I want you to understand, here are my wishes. That person is going to make what is possibly life and death decisions for you. It is really hard. So you want someone who is going to be able to do that, who has some knowledge of what your wishes are, so that they can be your advocate.
Yes, and I forgot to add one last thing on the healthcare directive. You also have what's called a HIPAA waiver.
Yeah.
And what happens is, if you show up to the hospital, that's one of the documents you sign when you're in the hospital, that they allow you to have. But if you show up incapacitated, they won't give your children the medical records because you did not sign it.
Right.
So by you having that HIPAA waiver that's on there, that is attached to the healthcare directive, you can be able to get a second opinion and get the medical records, which can give you peace of mind all in itself.
Absolutely. And another thing that I think is important is, if you do have a healthcare directive, if there is a local hospital that you're likely to be taken to, you can have an electronic copy already in their system. So should you show up, all of that is already there. Um, I know I had a accident 2 years ago. Busted my shoulder up. I was going to have surgery. And honestly, one of the first things they asked me when I went to the emergency room was, do you have do you have a healthcare directive? Do you have a health? I said, yes. And I happen to have already had it in the system. They looked and they're like, that's good. Because let me tell you, it's great that you have it, but the people who are going to be your proxy, they have to know where you actually have that piece of paper that they can then present to the hospital. So again, perhaps you want to have the hospital have it in your medical record so that people don't have to go, oh my gosh, I have to leave the hospital, go to dad's house, go try and find it. That's not the time for them to find it. It's going to be really hard.
They're worried about going and being with you. I mean,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that, those of you that own a home, I mean, and those of you that want to have your things in order, I think these are those things. I say, there's two things that are guaranteed. One is in our lives. One is that we're going to pay taxes.
Death right? And taxes. There you go.
And the second one is we're all going to die. So we should have those things in order to make things easier for our kids, or for we should say for our loved ones, because our brothers and sisters and all of our family, our loved ones, should make it a lot easier for them in that process.
Absolutely. Well, Oscar, this has been fascinating. How can people find your software, find you?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple things. There's a couple things that I'd like to give you. I'm going to give everybody a free comprehensive estate guide. If you go to estate.prep/guide,
okay,
you can download a free guide. It's about 31 pages. It's all the questions of the most important 5 documents that you should have in an estate plan. And it has even the questions there, like you'll see, like, who you're going to have 1, 2, and 3, and you can put those in. You can have it just a full disclosure. Just because you filled it out doesn't mean you have a living trust. Okay. Yep. Because those are just a workbook, a guide. The second thing that I like to give you is a phone number. If you have questions, we have an artificial intelligence, AI, where it answers all of your estate questions for anybody across the United States. It doesn't have any provisions in there. And the phone number is 805-909-4689. Here's the best thing about her. She answers every time. She doesn't take breaks. And she's not a salesperson. She's just there to educate. At the end of the call, she'll say, is there anything else? Is there anywhere else that we can give you more information or book a call or whatever? But she'll answer any questions you may have at no additional cost. And the last thing, I like to give you a gift of anybody that's listening to the podcast. On our website, it's $2,497. But if you use the code EPIC, we will give you $1,000 off for a lifetime value of the software. Now, here's where the most of the value comes in the software. Every time you have a restatement, a change on your living trust, it's anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800 to redo it. With the software, it's a lifetime access for updates. You have an update. You can update it. So the younger you are, the more updates you're going to have, because more things change in your life. So you can use the discount code EPIC, and it's good for 10 viewers that take action. We'll give you a discount of $1,000, and you'll be able to get it for $1,495. And those are the 3 gifts that we have for you. And I leave you with this. Yesterday, to do something yesterday, it's too late. Tomorrow, you don't know if you're going to be here. Today is the only day that you can do something. So take action.
Absolutely. And Oscar, thank you so much for all of those wonderful gifts. I will have all of that in the show description and a link to the website. Thank you so much for coming in. So wonderfully educational.
Thank you very much. And thank you for, like I said, once again, thank you for helping me on my crusade to bring awareness to estate planning. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember, epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.